Hi, this is Steve with HomeStrung Jewelry.
And I'm Shanda.
And today Shanda is going to show you how to make a pendant.
With your moons.
With your moons. Okay.
Or any pendant will work.
Yeah, well, this uses the Crescent moon. And this pattern was shown at the end of the unboxing for the Once in a Blue Moon box. And so let's go ahead and get started. Tell everyone what they're going to need.
All right, so you'll need your moon pendant, 3 beads that are 6 millimeters, 1 round bead that's 8 millimeters. You'll need your variety of pliers and cutters, some chain, and then you're going to need some wire. So you need about 12 inches of a 26 gauge wire that you'll cut into 4 pieces, 3 inches long. And then you'll need 2 pieces of 18 gauge wire. One will be cut 12 inches. And the other one will be cut 8 inches.
And of course, the moon does not have to be a blue moon. In fact, we don't have another blue moon. We put them all in the box that went out to many of you. So today it's going to be I guess it's a pink or magenta moon.
Yeah, any moon works, and you can have it facing any direction.
All right, let's get started.
All right, well, before we get started, I did forget one more piece of wire we're going to need. We're going to need a half round wire. Just, roughly about 3 inches. This half round wire, we're using a 21 gauge, but you can go all the way up to 18 gauge. Whatever you have on hand to make, to help make the bell on this. All right, now we're going to get started. So you're going to grab your pendant, and you're going to grab the 18 gauge that is 12 inches long, and you're going to thread it through the pendant, and you're going to find the halfway mark. If you need to, you can use a ruler.
You probably could just pull the 2 ends together too, couldn't you?
Yeah, and you can just pull the 2 ends together. So you can use a ruler, or you can pull the 2 ends together. What you want to do, you want to be very careful with what you do here. You don't want to pinch it too tight, or you will literally snap off that end. But if you have it too loose, then this is going to go swinging quite a bit, and it could snap off in the future. So you want tight, but not too tight. And I know that's confusing. My dad's laughing.
Just right.
Just right.
You want the Goldilocks fold.
I was thinking the same thing. You want Goldilocks here. Just right. Once you've got, very minimal movement and not too snug, then you'll come in with your either chain nose or wide nose. I'm using the wide nose. And you're going to just start by pinching those ends together, and I just do one wire at a time. I'm not going to do both because that will tighten it even further and make it more susceptible for tipping that break, or breaking that tip.
You can tip your break, break your tip. You can tip your tips,
tip
break your
wafers,
breaks.
Please. No, I'm just kidding. Yes. yeah, don't break the tip. I've done it before, and it's heartbreaking. So be careful. Once you got those together, then you're going to use your round nose pliers. If you have bell making pliers, this is a good time to make those, use those bell making pliers. But we're just going to use round nose because most people should have some round nose. And right at the bottom of the bend, I go up about 1/4 inch because that's where you're going to be wrapping with your half round wire. So I'm just going to go and bring these up to the front. All right. And if you need to, you can switch to the other side to try to even those out a bit. And actually, I'm going to make that bell that loop just a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to gently roll it up a bit so I have a little bit more of a loop. All right, and I'm kind of gently pinching with my fingers. When I'm done, I'll come in and pinch with my pliers a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to bring all these wires together. So I want to bring them all together. I'm probably going to go back. This side's a little bit not as full as the other side, so I'm just going to come in here and Just try to even it out a little bit more.
That happens when you use the round nose pliers.
Right. So bell making pliers does make that process easier, but there are workarounds. All right, the next thing you're going to take your 3-inch half round wire, and there's going to be a flat side and a rounded side. And in here you can see just from the reflection that you're seeing the flat side. And then this reflection's a little bit thinner. That's your rounded side. You want the flat side up against those wires because you want the flat side
on the inside.
On the inside, yes. And the round side on the outside.
Round side, outside, flat side, inside.
Right, you got it? And then you want a little bit of a towel, and you're just going to start wrapping around.
So you're wrapping up towards the loop.
You can go towards or down, just wrap around that neck, about 1/4 inch. And this just kind of helps hold everything together. And be careful that you don't cross the wires over. It'll give it a sloppier looking wrap.
Yep, but keep them close together.
Yeah, keep them close together. If you need to, you can come in with your round nose or chain nose.
Or flat nose.
Or flat nose, or however you want to call them.
As long as it has a nose.
As long as it has a nose, yeah. So, all right. Once you're happy with how that looks, yeah. All right, we're going to see if we can get those a little bit more even. There we go. All right, once you're happy with how that looks, then go ahead and trim the ends. So I'm going to take the trimmers, bring it up a little bit so it's easier to see. And I trim kind of maybe like 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch. 1/16 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to use my chain nose for this part. And I'm just going to take that little nub and I'm going to try to tuck it into the wires.
Oh, into the loop, huh?
Or into the loop, sorry,
okay.
into the loop.
Into the wires.
So into the loop, you can kind of, hopefully you can kind of see where I tucked it. Then you can do the same thing down here. I'm probably going to tuck it underneath this wire right here. So same thing, you want a little bit of a nub. If you're in millimeters, like maybe 1 to 2 millimeters, and roughly the same for size for in inches. And then you're going to just tuck it. And if you make it just a little too long, you can always trim some wires, which might have made that too, well, I can get it.
It'll go in.
It will go in. But if it is a little too long, you can always trim more. If you make it too short, it gets a little more challenging. So you can sometimes stretch the wire to get it around, but
you can force it.
You can force it, but
no, don't force it.
Actually, it's just not.
You'll break the tip or tip the brake.
Tip the brake, yes. All right, I'm just going to trim a little bit more.
Now, when you're trimming it there, you're using the flush side of the pliers.
Yes.
Right, so you get a nice, clean, flat cut.
Clean cut.
Because someone out there will look.
They always do.
Someone will look. I will look.
Yeah, he always gives me a hard time.
It's easy.
Yeah. All right. All right, there we go.
Okay.
That was a little harder than anticipated. If you need to, you can come in, straighten that up a little bit.
That's because we're on the video. It's always harder when
gotta bring it down.
when you're looking at screens.
All right. Now we're going to make the swirlies.
Love the swirlies.
The swirlies on the top. All right. And you're just going to take one of these. So I'm going to take the one on towards the curve.
The right side.
The right side.
The curved side.
Yeah.
If you got your moon going the other way, you'd probably take the other one.
Side, yeah. And I'm just starting with a simple little loop. And we're just going to keep making that closed loop.
You're just kind of putting it right over the hole that's there, so you're going to hide the hole.
Well, it's going above the hole.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you want to.
At some point, it's going to hide the hole.
It will hide the hole.
So you're wrapping it.
All right. If you need to. So this is a closed spiral.
Yeah.
But I didn't need to use any round nose or any chain nose really to make that work. If you want it down lower, you can take the whole thing and just
move it around.
Try to move it around, but it's not moving.
Because it's wire.
Yeah. All right. All right, so I'm going to take the other one before I finish that one because that one's going to be on top. And I'm probably going to trim this. I'm going to take off about 1 inch. Oh. It's a little too long. And we're going to just do a little loop. So getting the loop started, taking my flush cutters, going to trim that flat off, the flat portion right there, and angle it a little bit. And don't let the tip...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that hit me in the face.
No, it did not. Don't want those little pieces flying.
I've got a bruise.
So we're going to just start making a spiral. And then this, we're just going to do an open spiral. Oops, sorry. Sorry, it's a little harder to see from this angle. Yeah, and if you accidentally make a funky little curve like that. Yeah. Just come in with some wide nose or a wide chain nose or a flat nose or whichever nose you prefer. And just reshape it. All right, let's get this down a little bit.
This is why I like raw copper. It just seems to just naturally curve most of the time.
Curve, yeah.
Unless you get a bad spool. But it's easy to shape it. I'm a perfectionist. You're a perfect perfectionist.
All right, so I'm going to keep working at that until I get the shape I want.
It helps to take a couple extra minutes and just make it the shape that you want. This isn't a Thai sweatshop. You can take your time.
A what sweatshop?
Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. Oh.
If you're not a 12-year-old line worker, getting paid by the piece.
I'm not sure that should be allowed.
I'm sure it's
on
not.
Social media.
In social media? Well, they don't. That's like in the Nike factory and things. Jewelry making.
All right.
Looks pretty good.
All right, yeah, saved it.
We got another wire.
Yeah, got another wire. What are we going to do with this wire?
So much wire, it seems hard. You don't want to waste it necessarily.
Yeah. So same thing, you're going to start on this one. And we're just going to
trim the flat spot off.
Trim the flat spot. And we're going to make another open spiral.
Did you teach me about the flat spot or did I teach you? I can't remember.
Taught you.
I seem to remember it differently.
I taught you everything you know about wire wrapping.
Oh no, I've learned a few things on my own. All my bad habits are mine.
Well, I didn't teach you the bad habits.
Nope. Ooh, our curve's changing. We flip directions. Actually, that looks
pretty good.
Pretty decent.
So, all right. One of the things, as you can see, it's kind of far away. So one,
we call that dimensional.
Yeah, little too extra dimensional here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take my wide nose and we're just going to kind of try to angle it down a little bit. And one of the things you can do, actually, believe it or not, kind of going up a little bit, just a smidge, and coming down a little bit more. So kind of waving a bit. I actually can get that a little bit closer. So we're not quite so extra dimensional.
Extra dimensional.
Yeah. Or you just keep working at it until it works.
Or it's dinner time and it's time to go do something else.
All right. So there's the pendant. And now we're going to make the little swirly top.
Yeah, let's bring it up here. That's kind of cool. Moves a little bit, but it moves together, and I think that's nice.
Yeah, you're never gonna on this design. You're never gonna stop movement altogether.
Don't know that I want to. Yep, got the pendant done. Now we're gonna finish the rest of it.
Round 2. We're gonna work on the swirlies.
Find the middle.
So we're gonna find the middle, fold it in half.
How long was this wire?
This one's 8 inches. So this is 18 gauge wire that is 8 inches long. And we're going to just start folding it. And you want to very carefully bring these as close together as you can without damaging the wire, without twisting it. Okay, that's about as close as I'm going to get. And they don't have to touch. There could be a little bit of space in between, and that's okay. You don't want them, you don't want to put too much stress on that tip. Next thing you want to do is you want to take the end with your round nose pliers on the thicker part of your pliers, and you want to kind of start doing like an open spiral. But a pretty tight one.
Now everybody's round nose pliers are different.
Right.
So like these are a fairly good size plier. You could use your bell making pliers too.
Yeah, you can use a bell making.
I'm assuming that looks like about 6 millimeters.
So that's roughly the size.
Oh, it's bigger than 6 maybe.
Yeah.
6 or 7
millimeters. Almost a centimeter.
Really?
On the
outside
edges,
on the outside edge, yeah. I'm
inside
looking at the middle.
edge, you're looking about 8.
Yeah, because
maybe 7.5.
The middle's what's going to be up against the pliers.
Right. So once you got your little swirly started, kind of like an ocean wave, you're going to take the back wire and you're going to curl it out. And start to curl it. And a little bit of work hardening going on. All right, I'm going to trim about 1/2 inch at the end. So when we do the spiral, you want kind of roughly that size, maybe
2.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit shorter, so another 1/2 inch.
Whoa! Okay.
I know.
Bold. So when do you put the beads on?
It'll be on the other side.
Oh.
So start with just start a loop, cut off that flat part at a bit of an angle. Don't let that piece go flying. And then we're going to do an open spiral. And if there's some shapes you don't like, I usually use my wide nose or chain nose to kind of help, those extra pointy areas.
Just kind of mash out the bumps.
Yeah. But yeah, I usually just use the round nose just to make circles, but for open spirals, I usually end up using the other pliers.
Yeah, you're just basically holding the loop.
Yeah.
Sometimes with a lighter wire, if you're real good, you can just, once you make the loop, you can just use your fingers.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to leave that alone because the more I play with it,
yeah,
I can see the more I'm... All right. All right. All right, so before you curl this end, you want to put your 8mm bead on. Well, first you want to put your pendant bead on. So you want to put your pendant bead on, now the 8mm bead. And I just push them over towards that little wave, and we're going to start curling the opposite direction from these two. So these two were going clockwise, so...
Unless you hold it the other way.
Actually, they were going this way, so we're just going to go the opposite direction. But I'm going to trim off about 1/2 inch.
Yeah, they're all kind of clockwise. You're just going down. You're just going down on the lower part.
Yeah, So start my circle, trim that small little flat end at an angle, continue with that circle, and then start doing my another open spiral. All right. I don't know why I'm struggling with this side. Alright, so once you get the general shape that you want, and we got roughly about 2 inches on that in centimeters. It's a little over
50.
It's a little over, or a little over 5 centimeters. So a little under 5.5. Next thing we're going to do is this next stage is completely optional, but if you want to, you can hammer these edges down. These once they're hammered, it kind of helps solidify those spirals a little bit more.
It kind of hardens it.
Yeah, and it hardens it. But you got to make sure you're absolutely happy with it, because once you hammer it, it's really, really hard to change the shape. And so what I'm just hammering this outer edge. I'm doing like light tappings up here, light tappings down here, and in the middle a little bit more forceful, just a little bit. You also don't want to go so flat that it becomes brittle. I've had some students that really go crazy with the pounding. And if it becomes too flat, it just is not very wearable.
Well, and it doesn't look as good, I don't think.
Yeah. So, but you want kind of a slight little taper. If you're happy with it, switch to the other side. Hammers that you can use a chasing hammer. A lot of people love a chasing hammer. I started out with the ball peen for many, many years. I preferred that. I felt the head on the ball peen was a lot smaller and I had more control. The one that I'm using right now is called a Goldsmith hammer. And it allows me, I can sand the edges down and kind of change the shape if I need to. So that's why I like using the Goldsmith hammer, because it gives me the most control. And I'm also holding the hammer at the end, not up here, but there are some jewelry smith people that like to hold closer to the head. It's personal preference.
Well, I think you have more control. If you're holding it down here at the end, you let the hammer do the work.
Yeah.
When you're holding it up there, you tend to push it down, and I think there's less control. You know,
I don't have to work as hard.
Let the tool do the work.
I agree.
You know, just because you're holding it down here at the end doesn't mean you don't have control.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about your thumbs, you can tape it down to the block or...
And that's pretty much it for the hammering.
Well...
So, and if you want to, you can hammer these spirals too. I'm not going to.
I'll be a little late to do that.
It's not too late.
We just pull it out. We can pull it out and
you
hammer.
Pull them out. But I'm going to leave them where they're at.
Okay, we are hammered.
So we are hammered. Yes, we are hammered. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 26 gauge wire, and we're going to cut this into 4 pieces that are 3 inches long. Easiest way is just to go fold it in half.
Oh, now you just fold it.
Or you can measure it. Your personal preference.
I usually just start making loops and cut them off.
Yeah, you can do that too.
I'll sometimes work right off the wire spool.
You can work off the wire spool.
It's my Scottish grandmother. Actually, my Scottish grandfather. You don't waste anything.
Yeah. If it was sterling silver, I can see you working off the spool. So we're going to just start on one side of the bead, and we're just going to wrap around. And I'm going to make about 3 or 4 wraps. If you need to, you can use your chain nose to bring those wraps together. And I'm just going to push the bead down a bit and up against the wraps. And I'm bringing the wire up on top of the bead and to the other side. And then however many wraps you do on one side, try to match it on the other side. So 4 wraps, I think. Trim your ends.
Yeah, probably try to keep them in the back.
So, and then smash down that end a little bit. Gently smash it down. Get rid of the pokies. And if you know you've been successful, if you rub your finger against it and you don't feel anything, then you've been successful. I think I got 5 on that side, so I got to wrap one more time. And if you run out of wire end, you can use your pliers to help. And again, trim the ends down. And trim down the pokey. And then to keep that bead from sliding all over the place, you just tighten these wires down. So a little bit of pressure will help keep that bead in a little bit more, so it's not sliding all over the place. Next thing, we're going to add a bead down here. So we're just going to start. We'll we'll just start on this end. It'll be a little easier. So we got about a 1-inch tail, 1/2 inch to 1-inch tail, whatever you're comfortable holding. And we're just going to wrap around a few times. And we're going to grab one of these beads.
It's one of the 6mm.
One of the 6mm. And I forgot to mention, this bead's your 8mm.
Yeah, you told them.
Oh, I did? I don't remember.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. I've moved on. So.
But the bead's still here.
The bead's still here, yes. We're going to wrap the same amount on this side that we did on the other side.
So right there where the wire splits.
Right, yeah.
Cool.
So we have a bead there that kind of helps hold that a little bit tighter together. I'm going to trim these ends.
Trim and tuck.
Yeah, trim and tuck. So I can see that still poking out.
Yeah, I'll sometimes, come in with my pliers from the other side, the other direction.
Yeah.
And pull it down.
Okay. So 2 beads on. Next part, we're going to make the beads that attach to the chain. And I'm just going to start with a wire wrapped loop. And I'm using the tip of the pliers. And then before I wrap around the neck, I'm going to attach it to one of the loops on the chain. Oh, yeah, so I attach the loop to the chain. And we're just going to wrap around the neck a few times. The trim. Tuck the pokey. Thread on a bead. And then, oh shoot, I gotta bring it down here. And then we're going to do another wire wrap loop on the end. And we're going to use the tip of the pliers. And before we wrap around the neck, we're going to attach it to the side, to one of the open spirals. And you don't want this loop on the wire wrap loop we're about to do, you don't want it so big that it can
slide off the end.
You don't want it to slide off the end. That's why you want this loop to be a closed loop and closed off and a certain size. And that's why you want this loop on the bead to be small so things don't slide off. All right, and then we're just gonna go wire wrap loops. Once you got your wire wrap loop, then you go ahead and trim it. All right, so we got one wire wrapped loop on one end and we're going to finish on the other end. So same thing. And if you need a tutorial on wire wrap loops, my dad has made one.
Yep, we'll just put a link up in.
Yeah, we'll put a link
up in this corner over here. Or down below.
So go ahead and take a look at that if you need some help on how to do a wire wrap loop.
There's several ways to do wire wrap loops.
Way.
Debbie has her way, and Shanda and I do it the right way.
There's no right or wrong way.
My way's the right way.
The end result is what matters the most.
And that's why it's the right way.
And this design, my mom had this big, huge filing cabinet with a whole bunch of pictures from like over 10 years ago. And we're not sure who the original designer of this wire wrapping design is. I tried to do some Google searches, couldn't find any. If any of you know who the original designer is, I would love some feedback on that. Because it's a fantastic design. Very clean, very simple, but it teaches a lot of great wire wrapping skills. You know, like wire wrap loops, open spirals, closed spirals. So it's a great design, and I would love to give credit where it's deserved. So anyway, just about done. I'm gonna wrap around that loop, around the spiral, finish it off. Wrapping around the neck. And we're gonna trim. And always be careful when you trim wires, especially when you got so much stuff close together, that you don't accidentally catch something else in your trimming. So you don't want to have to start all over. So be very careful. And once again, make sure my loop doesn't come off. And there's this swirly design. Make sure you put on a clasp at the end. We have some tutorials on how to make your own homemade clasp. So feel free to follow those tutorials. Otherwise, you're pretty much done.
Anyway, we appreciate Shanda coming today and demonstrating this. If you like this video, then be sure to click the like button. And if you'd like to be notified in the future of any videos that we come out with, check the subscription button, and then when it comes up, make sure you click the bell as well, and then you'll be notified when our next videos come out. We have a lot of things planned in the future, and so we appreciate you coming today. We look forward to seeing you again in the future, and hang around for a few minutes and we'll have a few more different designs that you can look at. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.